Okay, so today I'm going to show you how you can make a prompt menu or a menu made out of proximity prompts and display it near the character, like the shoulder, over his head, or near his arm, whatever you choose. So we're going to show you how you can do that and open and close it using the tool, a keybind, and also the gamepad. Okay, and that's pretty much all we're going to do. The free model is in the description. If you have any suggestions or any other tutorials or any other comments, you can comment it in the comment section, of course. And yeah, I try my best to explain this to you, so if you don't get it, my bad. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to add a accessory to the workspace. I mean the Explorer over here. Okay, we're going to use that. The accessory is going to be our menu. Okay, so in the Explorer, you want to add in a attachment. I mean, not an attachment, an accessory right here. Add that in, okay, and then once you do that, you want to go to it and name it whatever you want. Okay, this is going to be the name of your menu. Okay, I'm just going to call mine prompt menu. All right, call it prompt menu, and inside this prompt menu, this is an accessory that we're going to add to the character. So we need a part named handle. Okay, so add in a part here, and then you just call this part handle, like that. Okay, and then this part is going to be transparent. We're not going to see it. All right, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so but I'm going to scale this down. You can scale it down to however you want it. I'm just going to do 0.5 for the y, x, and z axes. So 0.5 comma 0.5 whoops 5 comma 0.5. So next thing we're going to do is, once we name this handle, we want to add, this is where we're going to add everything else inside of this handle. Okay, so we're going to add our proximity prompt now. Okay, we have our first proximity prompt, and we should be good here. I'm going to anchor this so it stays where it is for now, just so we can test this out and make sure we can see our proximity prompt. Okay, we can see our proximity prompts right there. You see it works fine. Cool. So now we're going to add this onto our physical character in game. Okay, so I'm going to stop this again. We're going to unanchor this. We're not going to see this part. It's going to be transparent, so we can unanchor this, make sure it's unanchored. Because it's an accessory, you don't need to anchor it. Okay, we're going to turn off the shadows because we don't want to see it. It's going to be transparent. And then we want to turn off can collide, and boom. Now I'm not going to make it transparent yet, just so for later. Okay, it'll make sense later. But once you have your accessory, this is your menu. You have your handle. You need this for it to actually attach to your character, and then your proximity prompt buttons goes inside of your handle. So once you do all of this, we want to move this to server storage. So take your prompt menu here, go down to server storage and add it in there. So now it's in server storage. Okay, next thing you want to do is you want to go to server script service and add in a server script into here, like so. We can delete this code here. All right, now I already coded this earlier, so I'm just going to copy and paste, and then we can go over it. Alright, so here is the code to add it to our actual character here, and it's very cool. Okay, it's not hard at all, it's very simple. Alright, so now whenever you don't understand anything in Roblox Studios, now you can just highlight the entire code here, right click, and then explain code, and then the Roblox assistant will explain the code to you where you'll understand it. This is very helpful, especially if you don't really, especially if you're new to scripting and all of that good stuff. All right, so it's going to explain my code, what it does, and it explains it perfectly. Okay, so I'm just gonna let Google read it to you so you can understand it. It explains it better than me. All right, so we're gonna let this get done generating the explanation of my code. All right, so it's done now. So now we'll just go over real quick. Okay, so let's just read it. Okay, I'm just gonna copy this and let Google read it so you'll understand. Alright, so this is what my code does.
This Lua code is used in Roblox Studio for adding a specific accessory to a player's character when they join the game. Here's a step-by-step explanation of what the code does. The code starts by defining a local function named onPlayerAdded. This function is designed to be called whenever a new player is added to the game. The function takes one argument, player, which represents the player that has just been added. Inside the onPlayerAdded function, an event listener is set up for the character added event of the player object. This event is fired whenever the player's character is added to the game. For example, When the player first joins, or respawns after being killed, the function that is connected to the character added event starts by getting a reference to a prompt menu object stored in the server storage. This object is presumably an accessory that will be added to the player's character. The function then attempts to find a humanoid object within the player's character. The humanoid object is a special type of object in Roblox that represents a character's body and controls its movement and animation. If a humanoid object is found within the player's character, the function proceeds to clone the prompt menu object and add it as an accessory to the humanoid. This effectively adds the prompt menu accessory to the player's character. Finally, outside of the onPlayerAdded function, an event listener is set up for the player-added event of the game, player's object. This event is fired whenever a new player joins the game. The onPlayerAdded function is connected to this event, so it will be called whenever a new player joins. In summary, this code listens for new players joining the game, and when they do, it adds a specific accessory, the prompt menu object, to their character.
Okay, so that's what the code does. Pretty simple, straightforward. This not hard at all. Okay, so he explains the code. This humanoid, this is inside of our physical character. Okay, so if I go to my character here, if I select them and I go inside, you'll see it has a humanoid. All players have humanoids, okay? So it's just going to clone is just copy, okay? If you don't know what this means, just highlight it, explain the code, and then the assistant will explain it to you where you'll understand it a little bit better. Okay, so now that we did this, its code should work now. So once we hit play here, it should take the prompt menu in our server storage and add it to our character. So let's test this out. And as you can see, we have it on our actual character. Pretty cool. Now, okay, so now we're going to make more buttons, and to do that, very simple. Okay, so I'm going to come out of here, go to our prompt menu over here, and you just duplicate your button. So Control D, now you have 3 buttons inside of your prompt menu. So if I hit play again, we're going to have some issues, of course. As you can see, we still have 1 button. Why? Because we have to turn some settings on, okay? So if you go inside of your proximity prompts, you'll see right here, it says 1 per button, okay? This setting you want to change for all of your proximity prompts. So select it and then change it to always show for all of them, okay? So now you want to go to your other 2 here and then change to always show. And what this does, just make sure your proximity prompt is always showing, so you can see all of them now, and not one at a time. You can see all of them. So now if we hit play here, you should be able to see all of your proximity prompts at the same time. Okay, and there you go, you can see them all, but now we have an issue of them overlapping because they're in the same position. Easy fix. Okay, come back out, go select all of your proximity prompts here. Just gonna hold control and select all 3 of them. And then once you select them, you want to go down to your properties again, go to UI offset down here, and now you want to change the one by one. You want to change the y-axis, which is the up and down. Okay, so the first one is at 0. That's fine. We keep that at 0, and then the second one we'll move it up a little bit, maybe 80 on the y-axis. So now this is above the first one. Okay, so now we do this again. So since we moved it in 80. We want it to be even, of course, so 80 times 2, which is 160. So we'll go to our third proximity prompt, go to y-axis, and we'll do 160, which is 80 times 2, okay? So now if we hit play here, just hit play, you'll see they are stacked on top of each other and they're not overlapping anymore, okay? Very neat, very cool. Simple. Alright, so now we have our three proximity prompts. So we hit play again. I'm just going to show you. I have some issues with this. I don't like it in the middle of the character on his head. I don't like it. I want it to be like on either side of the character, but not in the middle blocking the physical character, like so. Okay, so in order to fix this issue, you can use the UI offset again. Just move it on the y-axis this time. But there's another way you can do this as well. So if I hit the plus icon on my handle and add an attachment, and then what you want to do is you want to select a character, so add a character into workspace, and then you want to go inside of this character, and you want to go to one of the attachments. So I want it to be on his right shoulder area over here. Okay, so I'm going to go inside my character, go to the right upper arm here, and then I'm going to select this attachment for the shoulder right here. Okay, so now what you want to do is you want to copy and paste the name. Okay, so copy the name of this shoulder attachment in the physical character, and then you want to name your attachment in your prompt menu the exact same name, so whenever you play the game it will be in the same exact spot as the right shoulder attachment. So now if we hit play, it won't be in the center of the character anymore, it will be on the right shoulder, like so. Okay, so since we named the attachment the exact same name, it will move it to the exact same spot in the physical character, like so. Okay, so now I still don't like it, it's still blocking the character a little bit, so this is where we can move it on the x-axis. So I'm gonna hit Control and select these 3 proximity prompts that I have, go back to my UI offset, and this time we can move it on the y-axis, which is, so we'll move it 75, I guess. We'll move it 75, like so. Okay, so we moved it 75 degrees on the x-axis now, so now it should be even more to the right and not just right above the shoulder. So as you can see, it's over to the right more now, so now we can zoom in and out, and it's not really blocking the center of the character anymore. It's kind of on the side and out of the way. And of course you can move it up a little bit more if you want, or move it down a little bit more, or move it to the left, or if you like in the center of the character, keep it there. Okay, but that's how you can move this menu. So now, since we have the menu working and works fine, I'm gonna take this handle part and make it transparent, like so. And cool. Okay, so that's how you can get the menu working for the character and on the physical character. Alright, so now that the menu's working, there's a few other things we need to do as well. Okay, so the things we need to do is we need to turn our menu off and turn it back on using a keybind or a tool. I'll show you how to do both in this video. Okay, so the first one we'll go over, let's do keybind first. Alright, so in order to turn this off and on, we're going to add a script into, so we're going to go to starter player, and then go to starter character scripts. We're going to add a local script in here into starter character scripts, and then we should have a script here. We can delete this. Now I already coded this earlier, but we'll go over the code. Okay, so I'm going to paste in my code here. It's not done yet. Here's the first piece of the code. Okay, so what this code is doing, it's going to, this is a variable we created called prompt menu, and we're going to go and look for the prompt menu that's inside of our character. So since the script is in whenever the game starts, and since we put a script into starter character scripts, whenever the game starts, the script will be automatically added to the character. So we really don't need to do game.players.localplayer.character. Could just do script .parent, since it's already going to be in the character. Okay, and I'll show you they work both ways, but first let's show you this. Alright, and the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get all of the descendants inside of our prompt menu here, which is the handle and all of the proximity prompts, an attachment. It's going to get everything inside of the prompt menu, and this is called get descendants. Okay, if we do get children, it will only get the handle, but we want all of the children inside of here. Okay, so we do get descendants, and then we made a for loop. This for loop will loop through this will loop through everything inside of our prompt menu. It will loop through it, and then we put an if statement in here and a check for a proximity prompt. So if prompt is a proximity prompt, okay, so if we have 3 here, so if it detects any one of these proximity prompts, it's going to go to the enable function and set up the properties of our proximity prompt right here, this enable function here, or property here, and then we're going to set the value to false. Okay, so if we start the game here, it will turn it off. So let's hit play, and as you can see, we don't see our menu no more. It doesn't work anymore. We turned it off. So now if we stop the game again, and then we'll set this value to true and make sure it works. Whoops. Set it to true, and then we hit play here. You'll see it should turn our menu back on, like so. Cool. Okay, So now we're going to set this up using a keybind. Okay, so we're going to set this back to false because by default we want it to stay off. All right. All right, so the next piece of code we're going to add is the keybind. Okay, so first we need to make another variable because we need to use the service contact action service. That's what we're going to use. We can also use the input service, but contact action service is what I'm familiar with. I don't really use input service like that. Okay, so we can here add a new variable. We just call it contact action service, so I know what it is. Then we're going to go to game, get service, contact action service. So this is what we have our variable here. This is what contact action service equals, is the variable here. Okay, what a service here. So now we're going to make two more variables. All right, so we're going to add two more variables in, and these variables are for the keys we want to use for the controller and also the keyboard. So the two variables we made is we just call them prompt menu key and then prompt menu button. This is for the gamepad and this is for the keyboard. So the key we want to use is the Y key, and for the controller, the button we want to use is down on the D-pad. So you can just hit erase this whenever you want and then pick a different key. You can choose E, escape, the 8 key on your keyboard, whatever key you prefer. Okay, so we're going to use the Y key today. And same for the controller, you can just put button first, so button A, X, B, L1, R2, whatever, joysticks and everything is in here. Okay, just type in the key you want to use. But we're going to use down on the D-pad for our menu button. Okay, so we have two variables for our keys right here. So next we're going to add in the rest of the code. All right, so the rest of the code we're going to add in, we're just going to add in the rest of it. So now this is a lot more. It's not really confusing, it's pretty easy. Okay, so here's our debounce. This is just something that equals. So this equals nil, it doesn't equal nothing. So since it doesn't equal nothing, by default it equals false. Okay, so we made a function for our prompt menu right here, and all it does is when it detects the input key that is assigned to our function, it's going to set the it's going to do the same thing what we did up here. We loop through our prompt menu. It's going to find a proximity prompt, and then it's going to turn the .enable property to true once we hit the button once for the first time. Okay, and then it's going to, it also sets our debounce to true. Okay, so now we're going to do an else if statement. So else if you hit, so this is detecting whenever you hit the key a second time, it's going to change this open value to false, and then it's going to change it's going to do the same thing again, loop through the for loop. It's going to loop through our prompt menu over here, and then it's going to get the enable property here and set that to false. Okay, and we did and not right here. This is going to make sure, so if it doesn't equals true, so if it equals true, by doing and not, it's going to say if it equals true, then do this. If it doesn't equals true, if it equals false, then you do this one right here. So just statement right here just does the opposite of what open equals. Okay, and then this right here, this piece of code down here, just assigns the function throughout to our keybinds, which we have up here. Okay, we just put our keybinds in parameters, but you can just write this like this. You don't have to put in parameters if you don't want to. You can just paste this here, and then you have your first key, and then you just put a comma there. Whoops. Put a comma there, and then you paste your second key in, and then you can pick down on the D-pad. So you don't have to put them in variables if you don't want to. Okay, and if you want a touch button, you can always set this to true, like this, and then it will create a mobile button for you. Okay, so let's test this code. So if we hit either down on the D-pad, or the Y key, or down on the D-pad, it should open and close the menu. So now let's hit play. So if I hit the Y key on my keyboard, our menu should open, and it does. Hit it again, it goes away. So now we can see it works perfectly fine and there's no issues. So I'm going to turn on my controller, and I'll show you that it also works for the controller as well. Okay, our controller is hooked up here. So if I hit down on the D-pad, you'll see our menu will also open. I have stick drift. Okay, boom. And you can see the buttons whenever Roblox, this does it by default. So whenever Roblox detects that your controller is connected, it will change the image icons for your menu buttons, like so. Okay. So now that works, we are done with that. So now we're going to just stop the game real quick and we're going to go over this again. So this is just the code for our keybind now. Okay, so that's it. Pretty simple. It's not really that hard to understand. Debounce is very important. If you want a mobile button, you can just set this to true. Okay, and then you can test this, like go to test, select a device over here. You can pick any device you want, and then you just come here and you hit play, and then you should see the mobile button, and it will also work for this. Okay, you'll see return. Okay, I think my controller is connected, so it's busted. There we go. Okay, you'll see the mobile button right here. They are overlapping, of course, but this is why I don't create my mobile buttons like this. I usually just use a screen GUI, but it works for all of them at the same time. So keybind, controller, and also your mobile device. Okay, so this is the code for this. Now, if you really don't understand this code, if you didn't understand anything I said, just do what I said the first time. So highlight all of the code up here. Just highlight all of it. You want to right click on any one of your highlighted pieces of code here, and then you want to hit explain code, and then the Roblox assistant will generate a explanation for you, and then hopefully this will explain a lot more. All right, so whenever you explain the code, you see it wrote it out nice and neatly, but I'm still gonna go over it. Okay, I'll just let Google read it just so you understand a little bit more, just in case I wasn't clear very much. Okay, so let's have Google read this to you.
The first two lines of the code are used to get references to the prompt menu object from the player's character and the context action service from the game. The prompt menu object is assumed to be a child of the player's character, and the context action service is a built-in service in Roblox that allows you to bind actions to specific inputs. The next two lines define the keys that will be used to open the prompt menu. The prompt_menu_ key is set to the Y key on the keyboard, and the prompt_menu_ button is set to the D-pad down button on the gamepad. The proximity prompts variable is then defined as all descendants of the prompt menu object. This is done using the getDescendants method, which returns a table containing all descendants of an object. The code then loops through all the proximity prompts and disables them. This is done using a for loop in the ISA method, which checks if an object is of a certain type. In this case, it checks if the object is a proximity prompt. The open variable is then defined. This is a Boolean variable that will be used to track whether the prompt menu is currently open or not. The prompt menu function is then defined. This function is called when the specified key or button is pressed. If the prompt menu is not currently open, it opens it by enabling all the proximity prompts. If the prompt menu is currently open, it closes it by disabling all the proximity prompts. Finally, the bind action method of the context action service is used to bind the prompt menu function to the specified key and button. The true argument means that the function will be called continuously as long as the key or button is being pressed. In summary, this code allows the player to open and close a custom prompt menu by pressing a specific key on the keyboard or a button on the gamepad. The menu is made up of proximity prompts, which are initially disabled and then enabled or disabled as needed.
All right, and that's pretty much the code. Well, that's exactly how it works. Okay, yeah, so next we'll go over how you can do the same script for a tool, and yeah. So before we do the tool, let's do the menu real quick. All right, so yeah, we got to fix the problem with the menu. Well, it's not a problem, but I'm sure people will want to know how to make different pages and stuff. Okay, so let's make 4 buttons. Okay, so this is my menu. Let's make 4 buttons for it. To add a new button, just add a button into your handle here, and then you want to just move the UI offset up. Okay, so this will I'll make this 210, I believe, or 290. Okay, this is the 4th button, so we have 50, 210, 1. Okay. Okay, cool. So we just added the 4th button. Just add it into your handle, and then move it up on the y-axis, so that way they don't overlap. So I'm gonna hit play just to make sure my button is good. Open up my menu by hitting Y, and now we have 4 buttons, which is nice. Okay, so now I'm sure the problem is, if you keep adding buttons, you don't want them to stack on top of each other until it's off the screen, right? So another way you can do this is we'll have like these 3 can be main buttons, and this can be like a a page button. So like switch between page 2 and 3 and all the other stuff. Okay, so this will act as the page button. We can switch between the first page, second page. That way we don't gotta keep stacking our proximity prompts on top of each other. Okay, so I'm gonna show you how to do that real quick. So I'm gonna come out of here. Okay, so now the first thing you want to do is let's name our prompts real quick, just so they don't have the same name and there will be, you know, problems in the script. So let's get the one at the bottom, it's at 50. This one is at the bottom, so we'll name this one proximity prompt 1. Okay, and then we just name the rest of them the same. You can name it whatever. These are your buttons, you can name them whatever. Okay, so I'm gonna name this 2, and then we can name this one 3. We can name this one 4. Okay, so 4 proximity prompts. Okay, so now we need to make different pages for this. Okay, so you can't add folders in here to organize your proximity prompts. So if I add a folder in here, then I take my proximity prompts here. I'm just gonna take these 3 and add in a folder. Then I hit play here. It's not going to work, and I don't know why, it just doesn't work. So if I hit Y, you'll see only one pops up because this is the one I didn't add in the folder. Okay, so that's an issue. So in order to organize our proximity prompts, because we're gonna have multiple. Okay, so in order to organize them, models don't work and folders don't work. So we can use attachments as folders. So you just add an attachment here. This would be like our first folder, and you can name it whatever. I'll name it page 1. Page 1. Okay, and then we'll duplicate this and we'll name this one page 2. Okay, so we have 1 folder and 2 folders. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to duplicate. This is our back button. This will switch between our 2 pages. So this is what this proximity prompt is for. So we'll take the other 3 on top of this one, add it in page 1 here. Okay, and then we'll just duplicate this and add these into page 2. So now we're going to rename the ones in page 2. That way they don't have the same name. Okay, so this will be 5. Then this one will be 6. And this one can be 7. Okay, boom. We have 2 pages of proximity prompts here, and then we have our button that will use to switch between the 2 pages. So if I hit play here, they should be overlapping with each other. Hit Y, and yes, they're overlapping. You can see it's darker and this one's lighter, because these are overlapping. Okay, so now what we're going to do is use this button to switch between these 2 pages here. So we're going to come out of here, and we have page 1 and page 2 here, and then our active button that switch between the 2 pages. So we're going to add a script into our handle. Okay, hit the plus icon on your handle, and you want to add in a local script because you're scripting the proximity prompt, which only the client can see. So we're going to erase this. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Okay, and we're going to paste in the code I already scripted already. Okay, so we're going to zoom out a little bit just so you can see this. Okay, so here's the first page. Here we have a variable called proximity prompt 1, which is our button here. It's not inside of our folders because we don't want it to be affected by our folders. Okay, so we have this one. It's just script.parent.proximity prompt 1, which is the script inside of the handle, and then a parent, which is the handle, and then our proximity prompt button. So we got this button here, and then we made variables for our pages here. So page 1 script.parent, and then .page 1 here, and then we did get children. Okay, we did get children because we know all the proximity prompts. We know there's only proximity prompts in page 1 and 2. So I did get children, and it's got all of these here. Okay. Then we made another debounce just like the other script. So now page equals true. It's just for it to switch between the 2 pages. Okay, and then we did proximity prompt 1 that triggered. So this triggered event, you need to do this whenever you click the key assigned to your proximity prompt, which is E for proximity prompt 1. We'll change it later. But this is a triggered event, and then once you hit the E key for this proximity prompt, it does whatever is inside of your function here. Alright, so what this does is whenever you hit the key assigned to proximity prompt 1, it changes page to false, and then it will loop through your page here, which is page 1, and then it's going to turn off the enable property again. Okay, and this does the same thing for page 2. Very simple. And then we just did an else if, so when it equals false, then we set it back to true, and then we do the same thing, turn off the enable function inside of page 2. Okay, so now we're gonna test this. So I'm gonna go back here. We're gonna change this our proximity prompt button, the one we're gonna use. We're gonna change the Q, and then we'll put a hold duration of 0.5. Okay, and that's it. So we're gonna test this out, and it should work. All right, so now when we open our menu, we should open our menu, and you can see we can open it up, hit Q, and it changes. It's working. Okay, so let me name one of these proximity prompts something else, that way you can see it. So go back to my page 1 and 2 here. So I'll take number 2 and I'll name this, we'll just name this 1, and then we'll go here and name this 2, just so you can see it change. Okay, now we open our menu here. They're overlapping, don't worry, we're gonna fix that. Then I hold Q, it's page 2, hold Q again, back to page 1. Okay, so it's switching the top 3 proximity prompts with the 2 pages that we created. See, very cool. Okay, now we know that's working. The thing we want to do is we're going to go back into our script here, and what we can do is we can take this for loop here. Whoops, we copy page 2 here. We just add it at the top of the script. No big deal, and then you can change this to false. Okay, so this will always keep page 2 off unless you turn it on by hitting the key. So now if we hit play here again, hit Y, you'll see it doesn't work. And it doesn't work because we have a problem here. Just wait, this is a problem. So in order for this to work, we're going to go down to our script here, in our starter character scripts right here. And instead of turning all of our proximity prompts on in the menu, we want to only turn on page 1. So we need to make a new variable again. Okay, so between the 2 scripts, which is page 1 right here, this is what we need to do. Okay, so now we got to get these. So what we can do, just add some space at the top of your script here. Okay, and then we want to get the variables for page 1 and page 2. So we already got our prompt menu up here, so we can use this. Okay, so we can use prompt menu dot handle. Okay, and we're gonna do dot, I believe, page 1. Okay, and then we can do the same thing that we did here, which is get children for the actual function. Okay, and then we can do connect. I'm just gonna copy this. Okay, and then you get the children, boom, put a parentheses, and you cool. Okay, so proximity prompt 1 right here, as you can see, we do the proximity prompt and then the handle here, that's what we're going into, and then we'll do page 1, which is right here, and then we'll do get children. Then we copy this again, paste this here, and change to page 2. Okay, and now we have both of these pages here. Now what we want to do is we can copy this again here. Okay, so we can copy this right here. And now what we want to do is instead of turning all of the proximity prompts on when we hit the Y key or down on the D-pad, we can erase this, hit tab here, and just go in, paste our new code here, which is page 1 here, which is a variable we did it fine. So I forgot to do the variable here, so whoops. Okay, so local page 1 equals this. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing here. Local page 2 equals this. Okay, so now that we have that, this should be good now. So whenever we hit the Y key, want to turn on page 1, okay, and we don't want any other page on, so we want to keep page 2 off, which is this page right here. Okay, so instead of it, so now whenever we hit the Y key, it should only turn on the first page right here. Okay, so now that we added that in here, we're gonna go here and hit play, and then it should turn off the other proximity prompts. So we hit Y, and as you can see, we can turn it on. But the problem is we separated the proximity prompt number 1, it's not in the folder, so we got to get this one as well in our keybind script. So come down here, we can do the same thing. We can come over here and we just copy this code here, copy proximity prompt over here, and we just do local prompt 1 equals whoops, wrong button, prompt menu dot handle. Okay, and then you want to do dot the proximity prompt 1. Okay, and then you go here, take proximity prompt 1, come here, paste that there. Proximity prompt 1 dot enabled. You want to turn, whoops, you want to turn on the enabled property for the thing equals true. Okay, so now if we hit play here, it should turn all of them on once you open our menu, like so. Cool. So now we can switch between the 2 pages. Very neat. Okay, so that's how we can do that. Very cool. Just make sure whenever you add your script into your model here, in here, you don't need this code actually. Okay, whenever you make your script to switch between 2 pages here, this is when you make your pages. You want to go to your keybind script and you want to add in the variables over here as well, so that way you can only turn on we don't need that one either. We can turn on our page 1 in here also. So instead of turning all of the proximity prompts on when you hit the Y key down on your D-pad, you only turn on page 1 that you created in the other function. Okay, so that's how we can get our different pages to work. And we're going to do one more thing. Okay, so we're going to go to our button to switch between the 2 pages, and we can set our properties, our action name, we can, or action text, we can name it whatever. So this can be next. We'll name this next, and then the object text we can name page 1. It's going to start on page 1, so we can keep that there, and we can go into our script here. Okay, so now this is when you trigger the proximity prompt. So whenever page 1 equals true, well, this is page 2 at the top here. So what we're going to do is we can get our proximity prompt 1 again. Okay, this is our button to switch between the 2 pages. So you can go here, proximity prompt 1, and we want to change the action name. Okay, so proximity prompt 1 dot action text equals, put a string, because you're putting a string, text are strings. Okay, and then you can name this whatever. So when page 2 equals true, then the text is going to say back. Okay, and you do the same for the object text. Proximity prompt 1 dot object text equals, put a string, and then you want to do page 2. Page 2. Okay, so whenever page 2 equals true, it'll tell you the page you're on, and then you can go back to the next page because we only have 2 pages in our menu. Then you copy this, put it at the bottom over here, paste it there. You can change this back to next, and then you can change this to page 1. Okay, and then we'll hit play over here. And we hit Y to open up our menu. Boom. And as you can see, it says page 1 and then next. When we hold Q, it says page 2 and then go back. Okay. And you can see the page, their work, they're switching just fine. And you can close the menu and open it whenever you want. So that's how we can get our different pages for our menu to work, and you can just add more pages on whenever you want. All right, so just so you understand, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go over this code as well. I'm just going to highlight it. This is to switch between the 2 pages. Right click and then explain code, and then it will generate a explanation for you. All right, so we're just going to go over this code real quick. Okay, that way you'll have a better understanding of what it should be like, what it should, you know, what it does.
This Lua code is used in Roblox Studio to create a proximity prompt that toggles between 2 pages, page 1 and page 2. Here's a step-by-step explanation of what the code does. The code first gets the proximity prompt 1 object from the parent of the script. This is a proximity prompt that will be used to trigger the toggling between 2 pages. It then gets all the children of page 1 and page 2 from the parent of the script. These are the two pages that will be toggled between. A Boolean variable page is declared and set to true. This variable is used as a flag to keep track of which page is currently active. The triggered event of proximity prompt 1 is connected to a function. This function will be executed whenever the proximity prompt is triggered. Inside this function, if page is true, it sets page to false, disables all the children in page 1, enables all the children in page 2, and changes the action text and object text of proximity prompt 1 to back and page 2 inches respectively. If page is false, it sets page to true, disables all the children in page 2, enables all the children in page 1, and changes the action text and object text of proximity prompt 1 to next and page 1 inch respectively. In summary, this code creates a proximity prompt that, when triggered, toggles between enabling and disabling two sets of objects, presumably UI elements or pages, in a Roblox game.
So now we're going to do the tool next, and then we should be done from there. Okay, so now let's do the tool. Okay, so the tool is pretty easy. It's not hard at all. It's probably the easiest part of all of this. Okay, anyways, let's go to our workspace over here, and we want to add in a tool, of course, right here. Add into your workspace. Okay, and in order for tools to work, you need to have a handle. So let's add in a part into this tool here, and then we can make this part scale. We can scale it down to about the same as the part, so 0.5, 0.5, comma 0.5, comma 0.5. Hit enter there. We have our little part here, and then we're going to call this handle, like so. And then we take this tool here and we add it into the starter pack, and we'll see if it works so far. Let's go ahead and give it a try. Open it up. There we go. We have our tool. Okay, so now we're going to script the menu to work for this tool. It's pretty much the same exact script. So we go into our tool, we'll open it up, we'll add in a local script, of course, and then we're going to come here, delete this code here, and then we're just going to paste in the code that I already scripted earlier. Pretty cool. Okay, so this is the same exact script basically. Okay, so we did the same thing we did always. So first we need the prompt menu, the proximity prompt menu. Okay, so we get that by going to the game, then the players, then the local player, and then the character, because we place our prompt menu inside of the character. And then we're going to look for a child called prompt menu, which is our menu. And then we're going to make another variable for the tool script. Tool equals script.parent. You could just do script.parent. You don't need to make a variable, but I chose to. And then we got our pages here, is what we just created. So page 1, and then our proximity prompt, which is the button, the proximity prompt to switch between page 2 and 1. And then we get the descendants of again of our prompt menu up here, which just gets everything in here. And then we do the same function, which finds the proximity prompt inside of our prompt menu, and then it sets the enabled property, whatever, to false. And then we made two new functions. So for a tool here, you do tool.equip, and then we're going to connect it to a new function. So whenever you equip your tool, it's going to do this. And then whenever you unequip your tool, it's going to do this. Two separate functions here. An equip function, a function to equip, to connect the equipped function to the actual equipped event to the actual function. And then this one, it connects the function to unequipped. Okay, so whenever you unequip your tool, it turns all of the proximity prompts off inside of your menu. And then when you equip your tool, it turns only the first page on, which is what we just created. Okay, so pretty basic. So now let's go ahead and play test this. So it's inside of our tool here. Our tool is in starter pack, and yeah. So we hit play, and now it should work. So as soon as we equip our tool, it should open our menu, and when we unequip it, it should take it away. Equip, there you go. Here's our menu. Unequip, it goes away. Back and forth. Boom, boom, bam. Okay, and you can see it still works. Hold Q to go to the next page, page 2, and page 1. And that's it. So that's how you get it to open for your tool. Pretty basic, and Not hard at all, okay? But I'll explain it as well. So let's let Google read it and explain the code. Because why not? Okay, so highlight all of your code, right click and explain code for me, please. And it's going to generate an explanation for you. And then we're just gonna let Google read it because she's better.
This Lua code is used in Roblox Studio for managing the state of proximity prompts in a game. Proximity prompts are interactive GUI elements that appear when a player's character is near a certain object in the game. Here's a step-by-step explanation of what the code does. The first 3 lines of the code are used to define local variables. Prompt menu is a reference to a child object of the player's character named prompt menu. Tool is a reference to the parent object of the script. Page 1 is a table containing all the child objects of the page 1 object, which is a child of the handle object, which in turn is a child of prompt menu. Proximity prompt 1 is a reference to a child object of the handle object named proximity prompt 1. The next line of code gets all descendants of prompt menu and stores them in the prompts table. The following loop goes through all the objects in the prompts table. If an object is a proximity prompt, it is disabled. The next part of the code is a function that is connected to the equipped event of the tool object. This function is executed when the tool is equipped by the player. Inside this function, all the objects in the page 1 table are enabled, and proximity prompt 1 is also enabled. The last part of the code is a function that is connected to the unequipped event of the tool object. This function is executed when the tool is unequipped by the player. Inside this function, all the proximity prompts in the prompts table are disabled. In summary, this code manages the state of proximity prompts in a game. When the player equips a certain tool, some proximity prompts are enabled. When the player unequips the tool, all proximity prompts are disabled.
Alright, and yeah, there you go. And that's pretty much the tool script for the menu. So, pretty basic, as you can see. And yeah, I believe that's it. So, alright, so that's how you make the prompt menu. Well, that's how I did it. Is this the way to do it? I don't know. This is just my version of it. It was nothing online showing you how to make this menu. So this is what I came up with. Okay. So yeah, it works and that's good. Okay, hopefully you understood it. If not, I'm sorry, my bad. Anyways, you can like the video, subscribe, and join the Discord, the Roblox group, whatever. You don't have to, it's just there. Okay, and yeah, I'll catch you in the next one.
Later.